Okay, we'll stop there at the nutrients. Still having the issue with the nitrogen, and now that we have the rental press, the sludge press there, getting the sludge out of some of the other tanks that are needed for process, we'll be able to get those back online. We do expect to see those numbers to start dropping drastically even this week. So the next month report, we do expect to be seeing that trend downward. Next page. And that's really the conclusion. Operational notes, big things to highlight. The sludge press rental, we're just about wrapping that up. We've got another week and a half on that rental. We've taken right at 1,000 tons of excess sludge out of that plant, took it to the landfill. That's pretty tremendous amount of sludge built up in the plant, but we are definitely heading in a better direction because of that effort, and we're pretty excited about that. Other thing to note, we did have a significant power failure at the plant, at the headwork area, the switchgear failure. Took about 2 weeks to get the parts, to get that resolved, get it back online. We did have some issues with the telemetry and the backup system, and we've got a plan in place to make that hardwired so that's not working off of the telemetry to try to, reduce those instances. But overall, it was a good month, and next month's report, we'll talk about the weather and the rain event from the last weekend, but yeah, June went real well. Anybody have any questions? Thank you all.
Thank you. That concludes my town manager updates.
All right. Moving right along, next up is in appreciation years of service. Is it Lieutenant Commander, Master Chief? No, seriously, Lieutenant. Lieutenant, of all things, no, but proud Lieutenant Zachary Southard receives his 5-year award of service tonight, and I'll ask the chief if he wants to say a couple of things, but in case he gets nervous, I'll make sure I say a couple of things because he's here with us tonight in the back being very modest. You can stand up. Come on. Lieutenant Southard has stayed calm, cool, and collective under many instances that I have interacted with him. And I will say, just recently at the 4th of July golf cart parade, at the very last second, he said, "We're turning on Boundary, right?" And I said, "No, we're turning on Hawthorne," because that's what had been advertised, to turn on Hawthorne. And he said, "Yep, gotcha." No, not a blink, not a concern, even, and just calmly, collectively, and quickly changed, because there were other officers then aligned for the parade route to make sure traffic ran smoothly, adjusted everything as if it was smooth as butter. I mean, it was impressive, and you can just tell your service is, and that's a little thing, but I'm just saying it is indicative of their professionalism and, just how quickly you can adjust and stay dynamic in a situation, and your commitment to service to be there for that, because it was an important thing for a lot of our citizens to be there, and we really thank you. You've received recognition for some other things that you have done on the job, life-saving missions. We know you run towards danger, and as I have volunteered you to be my partner for my next Spartan race, I am running a half marathon in August. You're welcome to come on up for that. Anyway, he's always up for the challenge is what I mean by all of that, and I really appreciate it. And Chief, you want to say a couple words?
Thank you very much, Mayor. We are very fortunate to have Lieutenant Southard on our team. He's in charge of an awful lot of things that are very, very important to the way our department operates. For instance, he oversees our patrol division, and among other things, he oversees our field training program, our police explorers, and neighborhood watch. And he does an exemplary job in handling all those programs that the last two that interact directly with the community, which I think is admirable. He's also our resident IT expert, which helps me out quite a bit. But I want to thank him for his continued dedication to public safety and for his years of service to our department and to this community. And I want to congratulate him on his achieving his 5-year award.
Absolutely. With that, I want to say, you're going to have to come up here for a photo. So I'll read off the certificate. In appreciation of service award, the certificate is presented in grateful recognition to Lieutenant Commander-in-Chief of all things, Zachary A. Southard. No, it just says Zachary Southard. Thank you for your many valuable contributions over the past 5 years. Your loyal and dedicated service play an integral role in our success. Thank you again so much, Lieutenant Southard. I'm so glad he came. I'm so glad he came for it. Chris? All right. Next up is our proclamation to honor the National Parks and Recreation Month. We'll read this proclamation. Whereas the town of Colonial Beach parks, beaches, and public spaces contribute to the community's unique character and provide gathering spaces for residents and visitors alike, and whereas parks and recreation programs promote healthy lifestyles, outdoor activity, environmental appreciation, and opportunities for all people of all ages to connect and engage with their community, and whereas July is recognized nationally as Parks and Recreation Month to celebrate that vital role that parks and recreation play in communities across the nation, now therefore be it proclaimed that the Town Council of the Town of Colonial Beach hereby recognize July as Parks and Recreation Month and encourage all residents to enjoy and support the parks, beaches, and recreational opportunities that make Colonial Beach a vibrant and welcoming community. Now therefore be it proclaimed. And there's a lot of events, as Mr. Wood pointed out earlier, to participate in this month. Next up is our presentation, Mr. Trivett, Supervisor Trivett from the Westmoreland County Board of Supervisors, who had a celebration earlier today, and I'm so sorry to have missed that, but I'm sure it was fantastic, at the King George YMCA, who named the YMCA for the Trivett family, and it's just such a testament to their dedication to our region and our commitment to service to everybody.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and it actually was a privilege to be there and be one of the main speakers. And since you mentioned that, I recognize Sheriff Chris Giles today, who's retiring after giving 36 years of service to law enforcement, 34 of that in King George. And the blessing out of that as well is that Patrick Weston from Colonial Beach will be the new sheriff starting January 1. And then he'll finish out Sheriff Giles' term and then run for election, which he has the full support of the last 3 sheriffs to take over that department, and my family is going to support him 100%. He's an outstanding individual. He's a young guy, and we need young guys in law enforcement, Chief, right? We're getting old. Maybe you're not, but I am. And I want to comment, even though it's not on my notes, about what I saw up there when it comes to public safety. We got to start having conversations about fire departments soon. Anybody that monitors that radio knows that, and I'm a life member, so I can talk about it. That's probably the lowest number I've ever seen responding to calls, 3.3 personnel per call. More and more we are seeing these engines marking up with driver only. Dahlgren responding here weekly. in our county to calls. Thank God for them, because believe it or not, they almost beat a lot of these engines now to calls. And they are paid staff 24/7, but still, we're going to have this conversation soon. We've had a member in our department for many, many years that's paid. No other county department does. But we're going to have to look at, do we need another one? I've been on 2 fires this week. One of them didn't end up being a fire, but driver only in this town. Unheard of. Never happened before that I can ever remember. Even though 3 or 4 of us went right to the scene, went to this garage fire. 3 of us. I am too old to run in houses with packs on, and so is the people that are running these calls, but we've got to start having a conversation about where we're going with this. It's very important. And we don't want to wait until it's a crisis, but I'm going to tell you, it's getting there. If you listen to the radios, and this is countywide, this just isn't in town. We've addressed the squad issues. We're working hard on getting that new building. The county is 100% in support of that new building being at that location, and we're on board with that. We've passed resolutions for the grants. We're going to keep that rolling, Mayor. As you well know, you're right on top of it, and the county's on top of it as well. And I shout out to the sheriff's office, who provides lots of support to the police department in all of these major events. They're here with, a lot of manpower. And a lot of people say, gosh, why do we have so many people, here for 4th of July or whatever? But it's needed, isn't it, Chief? You don't know when a crisis is going to occur in a minute's time where you need those people. And you've got 3 or 4 officers or whatever it may be working, and they need those people there to back them up and to help them. And I think the sheriff does an outstanding job of that. I want to mention about Kinetic Sports, the multi-sports, Greg Hawkins, who is the owner and race director. 2 accidents, one involving a person hit on a bicycle out past Hall Store. Like you said, it was almost 500 bicyclists. One was hit right in front of the firehouse. I talked to Greg about that. He had a flagger out there. There was signs that was confusing. The lady that was doing the flagging didn't have any reflective vest on. She waved a car through. There was a bicycle right beside that car that hit her. And we're fortunate that he wasn't hurt. The other person was hurt and transported to the hospital. But, the bicyclists have to take responsibility, too. They're riding reckless down the road. They almost hit our engine when we were out there. I was on that call. We've got to do something to try to see what we can do to make it safer, because I saw some very reckless things during that. And as you all know, numerous people were plucked out of the water because of jellyfish stings, and it was a lot, more than I can ever remember since this event's gone on. It's a great event, but there's some issues that do need to be worked out because of safety. And so maybe before next year, that can be looked into and talked about a little bit further. I'll tell you that the county raised the property taxes 3 cents. It was 12 cents proposed. That's the bad part of it. The good part of it is this only affects 4 districts, and our district isn't one of them, because it all goes to the school, the 3%. So we don't pay for Westmoreland County schools. So that 12 cent would have meant an increase in the town as well. And I argued that and was not, I would have never supported that, because I know that the majority of it is for the county school system. And, I kept preaching, look, you better look at that formula, because we don't pay for the county schools. And we got that to 3 cents, and I'm just hoping that we're going to be able to get through this year, because the state's already come back and made some increases, that the school's already coming back and asking for more money. And it's tough. Somebody's going to be doing some cutting somewhere. And as I said before, I started in this position as chairman 7 months ago. And as I stood before you, I think in that January meeting, I'm just one of those people that believe in transparency. And right off the bat, getting in that position, I started looking at different things in the county, and obviously found numerous things that needed to be corrected. And if you recall, I told you then that there would be accountability. And we started with the accountability with the county administrator early on. But since that period of time, we have done a realignment here in the last couple weeks. Donna Cogswell has been promoted to the new county administrator. Chief Byrd is no longer Chief Byrd. He's going to be the Deputy County Administrator over Emergency Services, and Sunita Cox is the Deputy County Administrator over Finance. We've made some changes. We've eliminated 7 positions that saved the county around $600,000 by combining some duties and doing some different things to try to get this budget passed. We did pass it on June 8th, which is embarrassing because it has to be passed at the end of, by July 1, and we didn't do that, and that did not set very well, but I'm hoping that will never happen again. But we did have some things that were crisis. And I mean at the level of being a crisis that we've tried to change, and I think that we're on the right track. I'd requested early on about hiring a forensic accountant to come in and look at things that I didn't think looked like they should look. You know, it was going to be over $200,000 to do that. So we didn't do that, but we did the next best thing. We hired a forensic accountant on our staff as the assistant finance director. And so right off the bat, he's been looking at some things and bringing some things to our attention that I think is going to make a huge impact in our county and where and how we spend money. And I'm sure I'll have more to say about that down the road. So we have done some realignments, and I'll get you an organizational chart pretty soon of who's in those positions so that we can always have that collaboration between the town and the county, and you know who to reach out to when you need something. The Sheriff's Office received their recertification in crime prevention community, one of 16 departments in the whole state. Only 16 departments, sheriff's offices, town police departments, city police departments are certified in that. And anybody that watches or is on Facebook sees how much they have done to deserve that. They're out there everywhere promoting churches and what they can do to make those safer, make schools safer, and all those things. I mean, the sheriff is doing just an outstanding job with being out there in the public, and he's got some first-class people that's running those things. And it's something to really be proud about. So Tina Sumter from DCGS came down and presented that at our meeting. So I'm really proud of that, and I think we should all be. When you see the sheriff, congratulate him, because that's a big deal. And the chief can tell you, when you do these accreditations, it's a 365 day, I mean, you can't stop. And as soon as you get the accreditation, you keep going, don't you? You start all over again, because they come in and they look at so many different things, and I mean, they'll fail you, and it's pretty embarrassing to not be able to get it back once you've gotten it. We've approved a new, since you're talking about Parks and Recreation, the board approved a brand-new Parks and Recreation Department again, and we're going to bring that back. The county hasn't had that for years and years. And we also approved to hire a new Parks and Rec director. So that's something that we'll look at, and hopefully we'll work closely with the town on as well. We've approved an RFP for a new auditor. So, you know, accountability, that's what it's all about. We've got to be accountable for things that have occurred and see whether we'll get a new auditor or whether we'll make some changes with the one we have, but that RFP will be put out there. A big one that I think is necessary that the town residents know that use the transfer station at James Monroe. We had changed the policy sometime back where you couldn't bring trailers in there. People were bringing them in there full of stuff, and the county's then transferring that stuff to the transfer station and paying $80 a ton to transfer it to King and Queen. You know, and it's costing the county lots of money. But we have went back to where, after so many different complaints from residents as well as right outside in the 4th District, to bring back and allow some trailers, because some people don't want to put trash in their car, and I totally understand that. So we approved to allow 5x8 trailers, you know, with a reasonable amount of household trash, not commercial. And that's what was occurring. You have these commercial people who have started a business coming and picking up your trash. It's not so bad in the town, but it is bad everywhere else in the county. So we've done that to where now you can bring a small trailer with your trash, but if they look at it and say, you know, that's not household trash, or you're coming in there every day with a lot of bags, they're gonna document that, and you won't be allowed to do that any longer. And we approved the emergency operations plan. So that's been in the works for about 2 years. I'm sure that Mr. Byrd will get with the town and A copy will be provided to the police department and emergency services and those that need to know what the policies and procedures are in a crisis situation. So that's all. I'm sorry I'm taking so long. Dr. Addo doesn't mind because it's his time. But anyway, I hope we're all having a great summer. Any questions for me about anything?
I just want to congratulate you on finally having your budget, because I know on May 20th, you were still working on that, so I'm happy you were able to get that passed.
Yeah, we didn't stop. It's been a revolving door that really, it's been unbelievable.
I would like to say one other thing. I just want to thank you for bringing up the biker safety. And that incident, I brought up event safety several times in emails. I've also talked to the town manager about events safety, and I think that we need to maybe put this on the agenda for next time, talking about just events in general. I want this town to have events, but I think there needs we need to look back at the event application and make sure that there's safety protocols in place.
And I'll tell you, all of us are impatient. We have no patience anymore. When you see these drivers out there, the bikers are the same way. It's all who can outdo somebody, and they don't care. It's just like they believe they've got the road, the cars believe they've got the road, and it's just disaster waiting to happen. And I don't know how do we resolve it, because people aren't going to change how people are. And we see it every day of our lives, whether it's running stop signs with the one that got hit right up here at the intersection, or whatever might happen, or whatever causes these things. But we've got to be, all of us have got to be looking all the time, no matter what occurs. We got to be paying attention, and we don't do that. We got so many other things going on in life. But it definitely warrants a conversation. Anything
Any other
else?
questions, comments? Great.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Addo?
Well, good evening. Hopefully you guys are having a wonderful summer so far. It's been quick, and we are busy getting ready for 2026, 2027 school year. Again, good evening, Madam Mayor, council members, and all present tonight. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. I will start with the governor's FY 27-28 biennium budget. We were fortunate that it was passed last month, so we have an idea of the revenue that's coming from the state and also from the local government. But as we anticipated and projected, there was not a significant increase for school divisions. As Supervisor Trivett mentioned, mostly the small and rural schools are hurting a lot more than the bigger divisions. The bigger divisions have a more of a lead avenue to generate and get funds. But as we move along, I would say that we will maintain our FY 27 projected ADM at 540. Hopefully we'll be able to meet that and exceed it. The good news that came out of the budget billing legislation cycle was and we are excited about this, was the 1% local option sales tax referendum. That is something that has been in front of the council for a very long time, and some divisions went ahead and did it without a bill being passed, but this year we didn't expect it to pass, but it did pass. And this referendum will be actually great for schools, specifically for renovation and replacement of school buildings moving forward. I plan to work with Dr. Rice, who's a superintendent of Westmoreland, and strategize to have both boards from Colonial Beach and also from Westmoreland hopefully consider a resolution to support the 1% local option sales tax referendum for the November ballot. Our school board will certainly consider that next week. We have a special call meeting to amend our FY27 budget. At the same time, this resolution will be considered by our board members. And I also will ask the town to do the same. As I understand it, it's on the Board of Supervisors to actually pass a resolution for the courts to consider and put it on the ballot. So we're going to urge them to do so and put it out for the voters to decide for that sales tax. Now, to school activities, we are working diligently to fill all vacancies. Matter of fact, I think we have one teaching vacancy that we're trying to fill right now, so we are ahead of the curve. We're excited about that. We had a lot of retention, so that bodes very well for the beach. Also, our new staff will report, believe it or not, July 27 is their first day back. We're ready to rock and roll. And that is our traditional day to welcome them, and also to do our golf cart tour. That has been a hit for the beach. So we will do that, and then all of our staff will return on August the 3rd. Before we know it, the first day of school will be here August the 10th. It's right around the corner, and we are getting ready for it. We cannot wait to see our kids. Moving on to some projects. I wasn't here, but I hope Mr. Lawson mentioned a little bit of this. The front entrance and the main office renovation is moving along, is right on schedule and right on budget, so we are excited. I was just out there today, and just the transformation alone is incredible to see. The projected or anticipated completion of the entire project is the first week of August. And I was assured that not to be concerned right now, but if there's any stress or concern, they'll let me know. They said they'll be able to get it done. Please, most of you guys have received an invitation, August the 6th. It's our open house, and we're going to combine that with a ribbon ceremony for the high school at 2:30. So please, open to the public. I know the council members, hopefully they have received their invitation already to be present if you're able to. And lastly, we do have, as always, we're looking for substitutes, those that have a little bit of time on their hands, especially since a lot of us in this community are retired. Please consider being a substitute. Take a couple of days to come in and hang out with the kids. It'll rejuvenate you, believe it or not. So we're looking for substitutes. Just go on our website and fill out an application, and we'll take it from there. And Madam Mayor, that concludes my presentation, and I can answer any questions you may have.
I don't have any questions. Anybody have any questions for Dr. Addo? Cool. Sounds good.
Thank you.
Looking forward to the new school year. All right, next up on our agenda is open public comment. So this is general public comment, not the public hearing. During public comment or hearings, we ask that certain guidelines be followed. We ask that you stand at the podium, and for the record, please state your name and address. If you'd like to be contacted, please provide your contact information to the clerk. You can put it on the sheet, but if you forgot to, you can always give it to her later or just go over and let her know. Make your comments to the council as a whole. Be brief, state your position, and provide facts. And you may provide written statements or any supporting materials. If you have anything, you can hand it to the clerk, and then she'll disperse it to the council and the town manager. Debate is prohibited. Follow-up on comments is provided by the town manager. We're here to listen. We want to hear what you have to say. Please speak clearly And the council will try to hear everyone who wishes to speak on any subject. The comments are limited to 5 minutes. Time cannot be transferred to another speaker. If you represent a group, you may wish to identify other members of your group who are here in attendance. And after public comment is closed, we encourage that you stay as the council continues to engage in dialogue and deliberation on the remaining agenda items. And with that, we'll open up public comments at 7:08 PM. Welcome, Will.
Good evening, Will Knuckles, 204 Monroe Bay Avenue. Appreciate all the report outs that the staff does, but I'm hoping that we could tweak a few things. And the police reporting, by the way, which I found outstanding, the amount of transparency, and not just the fact that it's available, but they make it available through a number of different ways to be able to consume it is awesome. But one of the lines that gets listed there is parking tickets, and I've talked to their staff about this before, about why it's so generic, and I think they do have a software limitation as to how they record it. But you as policymakers can't really do very much with that, because without further subdividing it into public safety violations, like is it parking violations in terms of the fire lane, like are they blocking fire hydrants, they parking in intersections, making intersections dangerous, versus it's just that somebody's not paying the meter or not filling it, to the extent they should, or just ignoring that entirely. So those are very different categories, but you can't really address them as a policymaking body until you understand what that number entails. So if the software can't support it, since it's not, that onerous of a data tasking, if you could ask them to sort of give you more transparency on what those numbers mean, then you'd know whether you need to react to them or not, and if so, how. Next thing on the sewer treatment plant, I'd love to know where we are in terms of starting to think about a transition plan, getting away from our for-profit, sort of like more expensive contractors, back to a public staff-supported, fully done organization. I know that's going to take quite some time because we're still working on the initial remediation efforts, but those plans also take a long time, oftentimes years. So I haven't seen any indication that that planning's underway. If it is, I'd love to hear about it, and if it's not, I think it's time to get started on that. Other thing to get started on again is I think it's time to re-examine the PUD, or the Planned Unit Development Ordinance in town. Last time we did this was a few years ago, but although that's not that long in terms of the history of the town, only a tiny fraction of our elected officials and even smaller fraction of our professional staff were around when we did that. But I was on the Planning Commission when it happened, and I can tell you that the information we were getting in terms of town capacity, particularly infrastructure capacity and infrastructure impacts, turned out to just be wrong. And fairly substantially wrong. So given that we understand our situation a whole lot better than we used to, I think we should go back and look at this large-scale development possibility, which is what the PUD ordinance allows, in light of the reality on the ground now. It's certainly time to at least re-examine it and then determine if you need to modify it after you've gone through that exercise. Parks and Recs Committee, right? We have an advisory committee. I know they've been struggling to get out things like notices and agenda things ahead of time. They've had some recent headway. This is not meant to be a criticism of that effort, but more to say it seems to be that they're struggling in terms of some administrative capacity. Maybe we could help them a little more, because I don't think criticism is really going to get us anywhere, but maybe actually getting them a little more resources so that they can more effectively engage with their advisory body and with the public, just through some better work on the admin side. So hopefully y'all can find some way to give them a little more support. Next is emergency planning, right? So we're going through heat waves now, we go through floods, we talked about needing to move things in town because we have flooding, dangers, we go through cold things in the wintertime, but we don't seem to have, that I can tell, a plan that provides capacity to have 24-hour care for vulnerable populations. We have things for sort of limited times of day. This even includes in the wintertime, or it's sort of a daytime thing, but not an overnight thing. I think gap analysis ought to be done at some point to try and figure out where our holes are, how significant our holes are, and then we can sort of roll that in. This is work to do well before next budget season, because this work in and of itself takes a great deal of time. So trying to do this concurrently with trying to do the budget exercise isn't really a smart exercise. So if you can move that up several months ahead, I think that will help you the next time you go into the money conversation again. And one more thing on the just administrative side of things. The minutes that y'all approved, like you went through consent agenda and say, yeah, let's just approve the minutes. Public doesn't get to see those until sometime after the meeting. They'll get published on the website, but it would be much more effective, along with the rest of the packet, that we get to see the same thing y'all get to see before the meeting, which is the draft piece, because we may be actually able to provide some helpful input as your constituents about that exercise. about what's in the minutes and what gets approved and whether or not, we would like you to do things like just say, put them in the consent agenda, or whether they actually deserve a robust conversation. So that's hard to do if we don't see them until after the meetings happen. That's it for now. More next meeting.
Thank you. There's no one else signed up for general public comment. Would anybody else like to come up? Okay. We will close public comment. I have 7:13 PM, and I'm going to take a 5-minute bathroom break real quick. Okay? Recess, 5 minutes. All right, and we are back in session, 7:24, and next up is our public hearing, Resolution 27-26, approval of the conditional use permit. This is the Cup by Robert Busick Jr. Request approval to allow a specialty coffee roastery, small-scale production combined with retail coffee bar at the commercial residential zoning district. The property is identified as 201 Wilder Avenue, Colonial Beach, Virginia, 22443. And I will let Angela, I think, take it away from there.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor, council members, members of the public. What she said. I just want to first draw your attention before I start my presentation to tell you there is a little typo under fiscal impact that should say there is no cost to the town. I left out the little word no, which is unfortunate. All right, so next. As the mayor said, we're requesting approval for a conditional use permit to allow a specialty roastery, small-scale production. Next. This use is consistent with the very recently approved zoning text amendment 2603 and 2604, which allows a small-scale production not exceeding 6,000 feet in the RC, CR, and C1 commercial districts with a conditional use permit. The definition is on the slide and in your packet. Next. The location of this property is, you probably know it best as the former Margarita's Restaurant property. It's located at Washington and Wilder Avenue, as shown in the green box up there, if you can see it. Municipal parking is available across the street, across Washington Avenue on Wilder, which is Lot 3 in the diagram up there. Next. You can see the photo on the left is of the front of the Washington side street. The photo on the right is the entrance off of Wilder Street. This particular facility will enter off of Wilder Street and take the back part of the building. Next. I thought I added 2 new photos in there. I guess they didn't get in there. Oh, they did. I'm looking at the wrong presentation, I guess. So the photo on the left that you all see is the southwest corner of the building on the left, which is where the vent for the roastery will be, and the other is just the other side of the building, on the north side of the building. So the zoning, the purpose of this district is it's zoned CR. Purpose of the district is to provide for a transitional mixture of uses, although commercial uses are emphasized. Mixed commercial and residential uses may be continued, developed, and redeveloped. There are apartments upstairs right now in this. Properties to the north are zoned CR. Properties to the east are zoned RC, resort commercial. Properties to the west are primarily zoned commercial residential, except for the house immediately adjacent is still zoned R2. Next. Here you'll see a drawing, a sketch for the layout of the building, as well as the concept of what the interior will look like, where you have both the production section. You'll see on the left diagram the storage facility is where they'll be doing some of the production and bagging and stuff, and then you've got the coffee bar and customer seating and all of that. Next. Additional rendering of the interior, and then the applicant himself with the roaster. You could see it's not a humongous machine that's going to be making a lot of noise and a whole lot of other things, but because there is high heat and venting and possibility of odor is why we are classifying this as commercial cup. So the Planning Commission voted to recommend approval of this conditional use permit based on the 3 conditions that you have in front of you. The site shall be developed in substantial accord with the application materials, allowing for a special coffee roastery, including small batch artisan coffee roasting operation, packaging, and preparation for limited local wholesale and retail distribution, which may include customer-facing coffee bar and limited retail sales. The coffee roastery, we changed the wording, but the coffee roastery shall use low-emission roasting equipment that is EPA compliant, and venting will be according to the manufacturer's installation requirements and applicable fire and building regulations. And the third condition is the operation will comply with all applicable local, state, and federal regulations and licensing. The applicant, Mr. Busick, is here this evening to present any additional information or to answer questions. That is all I have, unless you have questions.
Bob, would you like to come up and introduce yourself?
Madam Mayor and members of the Town Council, I'm Bob Busick, and I live at 17 Lincoln Avenue, number 105. And I've been a property owner in Colonial Beach for a little over 25 years. And my wife, Nancy, in the audience.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing, run the public hearing, and then if we have any more questions, we'll open council discussion after that. Okay, Bob?
All right?
All right. So with that, we will open formally the public hearing for Resolution 27-26. It is 7:30 PM. Is there anyone signed up for the public hearing? And same rules apply as the other public hearing. Thank you.
Madam Chair and Council, thank you for letting me speak on the subject. Eric Nelson, 1321 Lossing Avenue. And I have spoken on this subject a few times now, both at the Planning Commission and here, when it was the subject of the zoning text amendment. I have known Bob and Nancy for a very long time, and I am really excited about this opportunity that they're bringing to the town and the opportunity that they're bringing for themselves and for that building, in fact. So I do support this application. I think it's going to be a great addition to the town overall, and certainly to the efforts of downtown Colonial Beach to revitalize the Washington Street corridor. So I just wanted to once again stand up in support of their efforts. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Riley Clifton. I will be the manager at the Potomac Perk, which I'm really looking forward to. I'm quite familiar with some of your faces. I had the opportunity after COVID to work at the Colonial Buzz coffee shop in town. It was unfortunate circumstances that got me there, losing my job after COVID, but through that job and meeting these people behind me, which I'll not get emotional about, my husband and I were able to get out of unsafe work home conditions. We now are able to rent a home in Colonial Beach financially because of these people behind you, just with their welcoming behavior towards me, their kindness towards me, and now for some reason they're giving me another chance to manage this coffee shop. And my family has a rich history in this town, some of it not so great. You may know of my grandfather who passed in the Oyster Wars. But the other side of it is I have a grandfather that worked at the lumber mill serving people. My grandfather was the doctor in town serving people. So I'm just looking forward to the privilege now that I have to serve others through this industry. Growing up here and now being an adult here, there's kind of been this negative tone of what it means to be like the town where all there is service industry jobs, and I'm looking forward to putting a positive tone on that. I have a couple of high schoolers that are interested in working at our shop. I have a couple of people that are in nursing school that just need something to help them in between because they have children. So I'm just thankful to Nancy and Bob for just giving me this opportunity, and I'm looking forward to what community will come from this coffee shop. So thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Joyce Reed, 24 10th Street. I just wanted to say I'm fully and, I'm looking forward to this opening. I think it'll be a great enhancement for the downtown area, and I can't wait to try his coffee. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, last call. All right, we will close the public hearing at 7:33 PM. Thank you, everyone. All right, next up, I will ask council to form a motion so that we can have discussion.
It seems appropriate that we provide a cup for coffee roaster, so I will so move, so stipulate.
Second.
Good pun. Okay, this is now open for discussion. Are there any questions, concerns, or comments for the applicant or the zoning office? All right, I think we have been seeing your application for quite some time because it has had multiple parts of the process from the text amendment to now, so I think we're well-versed in it and ready for a cup. All right, I'll take a roll call vote. Wood?
Aye.
Larson?
Aye.
Grandstaff?
Aye.
Sanford? Allison?
Aye.
And I vote aye.
Congratulations.
Welcome. Potomac Perk, right? Yes. Love it. And when you have a grand opening, make sure to let us know so that we can do a ribbon cutting for you. Okay? Excellent. Thank you so much. And best of luck. All right, moving right along, we have a discussion on mobile vending vehicles. Mr. Brower, welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight, we're having a quick discussion on mobile vending vehicles. The reason staff is bringing this to you tonight is because it's a topic that's come up on social media, also in these meetings, and from an enforcement standpoint, staff is regularly having to look at zoning code in comparison to mobile vending vehicles, and it leaves us wanting more, if you will. The other reason is the last time we really looked at mobile vending vehicles in any capacity was back in 2022, so it's been 4 years. So we've had time to kind of analyze the last decisions that we've done to see how they're playing out. And so tonight we're going to go over kind of the zoning regulations involving mobile vending vehicles and where we stand right now. So next slide. So we'll start with a little policy background. This is going back to the 2022 meeting, which happened in December, and two large policy decisions were decided in that meeting. The first one was the repeal of Chapter 13.1, Article 3, which essentially took the town's vendor program out of the hands of the town council and put it into the space of the town manager and staff to help kind of promote the program and to speed things along. The other thing that happened was town council amended zoning ordinance Articles 7, 8, and 9 to allow mobile vending courtyards as a conditional use in RC, C1, and CR zoning districts. In my opinion, this was a great policy because it created a way for property owners to dedicate their lot, if you will, as a mobile vending courtyard. However, in doing so, there was a space that was created, which if we look at the definitions here, we're looking at mobile vending vehicle, which is in code, as a self-propelled pushed or towed vehicle, trailer, or cart from which food and or items of personal property are prepared and or sold at retail to walk-up customers, excluding vehicles used solely for delivery. And then in 2022, the definition was created for mobile vending courtyard, which is a lot on which one or more mobile vending vehicles are located for the purpose of selling items at retail to walk-up customers and not for the purpose of storage or sale of the mobile vending vehicles. And these separations are important because actually nowhere in zoning code or in the town's municipal code will you find mobile vending vehicle besides the description. However, mobile vending courtyard is in zoning code, and so really anything having to do with mobile vendors, food trucks, they all fall under the mobile vending courtyard, which is one or more. So if you wanted to have a food truck in town, it's really hard to bring them in town because they are considered a mobile vending courtyard, which there's an additional process to make that happen. So next slide, please, Heather. So this is the current state of zoning regulations in Colonial Beach, right? So we have our zoning districts. These are the main ones. As you can see, mobile vending courtyards are allowed with a conditional use in RC, C1, and CR. Special event with vendors or peddlers on municipal property only are only permitted through the town's vendor program, and this is typically just on the bottom of Town Hill. Then we have the special event with vendors or permits or peddlers on private property, and there is no avenue for any sort of food truck or food vendors to be permitted in any of those zones currently. The next, obviously, is wayside stands and farmers markets, and those are permitted in RC and CR, and a conditional use in C1. So as you can tell, special events on private property, which include vendors, is super limited, because essentially, it's not an opportunity. If you go to the next slide, it'll show the zoning map. This just gives you a layout of where our different zoning districts are. As you know, our main commercial hubs are along Colonial and Washington. Next slide, please. So as we analyze, what's allowed, what's not allowed, there's really only 3 current vending options if you want to be a food truck or have an event, a pop-up event, which includes food trucks or peddlers, right? So there's one, the town vendor program, which is on municipal property only. Right now, it's being hosted at the bottom of Town Hill along the boardwalk. Option number 2 is a town special event permit, which is also on municipal property only. This goes through our Parks and Rec department. You have to get special approvals, and you can have events and peddlers through that process. And the third is through the conditional use permit, only if you have private property in RC, C1, and CR districts. This is a relatively long, lengthy approval process. There's also an $800 application fee. You have to have a site plan, and the Planning Commission has to hear it, have a public hearing on it within 100 days, and the council can wait up to 12 months. So it's just a very long process, and it really limits who can be there. And so the current gap is there is no simple administrative process for temporary vendors or events, including vendors on private property. So let me give you a hypothetical. We have a business in town, let's say they're located along Colonial, and they are an auto dealer, and they want to have a food truck come into town. Right now, that is not permitted. There's no avenue to do that. You'd have to go through the CUP process, and I don't think if someone wants to have a food truck come in for a single weekend or a single event, they're going to go pay that fee and go through the extended process. And so staff, our recommendation, next slide, please, is that the town council provide policy direction authorizing staff to evaluate and draft amendments to the town code that would establish a streamlined permitting process for temporary mobile vending vehicles and special events on private property. And I think the separation here is we don't want to take away the mobile vending courtyard, right? That is a direct purpose. If you have a plot of land and you want that to be set up for longer-term food trucks and events, it makes sense. They still need to go through the CUP process. But like I said, if you want to have a pop-up event, if you want to have a special, buy one, get two free, whatever, and you want to have a barbecue joint come in just for that day, there is no mechanism to do that quickly. And so staff is just requesting your direction on, would you like us to look at proposing policy to you that would streamline the process, or are you happy with the way things are now? And so I will turn it back to you.
Yeah, I have a couple comments too. Rick, you want to start?
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions. First of all, so for instance, Ace Hardware, and don't get me wrong, I love me a free hot dog, okay? But how is it that Ace Hardware can have the hot dog giveaways on days that they have?
Vendor card. They're setting up a grill, not a vendor card.
They are brick and mortar anyway.
That answers the question.
Yeah.
Secondly, is there a particular problem with keeping things the way they are in that we do have a spot for people who want to be a permanent part of town? What would concern me is if we allow pop-up sorts of things. We're already tight administratively. So then it's going to be up to the chief to handle any complaints that show up on that place. Safety issue concerns me. And lastly, there's just some things that you can and can't do. So give us a little Solomonic wisdom on that.
Yeah, my assessment over the last year, I've been over the vendor program, the town's vendor program. And there are people who want to come into town, small business owners, food trucks that want to come into town and be a part of what's happening here. We also have private property owners who want to create these small events or create some good vibes, if you will, and they want to bring people in. And right now, it's not an avenue. And so as the legislative body, you get to decide if you want more food trucks in town. All staff is asking is, do you want us to look into it? Do you want us to make any suggestions for you to actually look at before we actually add it to town code?
Well, that's part of what we're discussing here. Obviously, more options is better than others. But I would like to have those particular concerns
Yeah.
addressed.
And I
So
think-
we have some other comments too. I want to make sure we hear from everybody.
Yeah, go for it.
Oh, I thought Mr. Allison had his.
Oh, I was gonna wait for you.
Oh, you gonna wait for me?
Well, that way I don't have to.
Okay.
we don't Say the same things.
Yeah, I mean, this was, the way this is set up right now was on purpose. Because we did want to limit food trucks because they were in competition with our brick and mortars who are paying real estate taxes, personal property taxes, business taxes. A lot of these food trucks are taking cash sales. They're not really remitting taxes the way they should. We had a lot of bad actors involved in that. There was an enormous competition with what the chamber and the chamber events were doing, and their vendors are through a permit process where they pay fees and they follow the rules. The town's own vendor locations available on Town Hill, and then approving of a courtyard to have a place to put food trucks on purpose for those that, wanted a private location to do that. And we don't want to be in competition with a food court, which, I think if you allow it at any private location in wherever, then why would they ever go to the food truck court to begin with? And that business is already having a hard time getting on its feet because there's only one or two vendors there and they haven't really caught on yet, and that may take some time. So if we open this up broadly, then we're running the risk of sort of running counterintuitive to all those other initiatives. And the other point is that I felt like when we discussed this previously, my understanding was you could get a small event permit to have a vendor truck at an event, and if you parked it on the street, that's public property. And so that's how you could get the vendor food truck for a private event. So there was a loophole there on purpose to allow for those style things. The brewery does them. And so I'm not sure exactly what you mean by wanting to put it on private property. What we want is to fill our brick and mortar spaces, which we have a lot of vacant retail. So we're sort of concerned about a mobile vending site that's not paying into water and sewer and all of these other amenities, but yet needs all those things, right? They still use our trash cans then. They still use all of the needs of municipal services without really kind of paying their fair share to it. So that was a big discussion at the time. That was a big reason why. I'm not saying we can't change direction on that if that's what the body wants, but I think it's important to add the context of sort of that this was set up this way with intent, and to see if we still want to continue, that intent or change that intent. And I did think there is a way to get a special event permit, which is why when we transferred the authority from a council authority for vendors to a town manager authority, it allowed the town manager to sort of handle these one-off event permits through the small event package, like through that permit process. So I just give that context. Kenny, you want to add more? I know you were here during all those
So
conversations.
the other part about this is, before we changed it, you couldn't have a vendor anywhere, and I can say that because I was a vendor. I was one of the first ones, I guess, many, many years ago.
Hot dog truck.
With a hot dog cart. So we changed it specifically because the code didn't say anything about vending anywhere in town other than on Town Hill or Castlewood, basically, because that is town-owned property. So we went through this for several months, walking through what other places have done, what other areas within Virginia, Maryland, Chesapeake Beach, all the different areas to try to understand how we can identify a way for people to have these facilities. If a Napa wants to have that, we made it available to spend $800. They could have vendors come there. It's basically $15 a weekend for a vendor at that point, if they get somebody in there. I mean, that's kind of how the breakdown of the $800 worked. If someone could pay $15 to Napa, and then, they could set up there. Works with any of the CR, RCs. Essentially, they can set up anywhere, which is why we made the courtyard thing one or more vendors that give them the avenue to do that. So I'm not opposed to listening to additional stuff, but like the mayor said, we wanted to make sure that our brick and mortars weren't running out of business, right? We don't want 15 barbecue places here to take out our barbecue place that's a brick and mortar that's paying taxes, right? So if you have ideas, I'm sure we can listen to those. But like she said, we did it specifically on purpose to kind of make sure that, one, we level set, we know what's coming to town. And two, you know, we can kind of understand, you know, if we're flooded with cups, you know, then that's a whole different thing of like the vendor piece. But as soon as they understand that there's a roadblock, they just kind of walk away, you know? So, I don't know. I don't know what to say.
I want to hear feedback from any other council members. I know we got some new council members into this discussion. Lisa?
Question. So the $800 fee, as Ken was just saying, Mr. Allison, is that you pay that fee, and then if that brick and mortar want to have a food truck come for like an employee appreciation, they can have unlimited visits, or is it a set amount of time? They can only do it at certain points?
Yeah, and I'll point to Angela for a little bit, but essentially, that $800 gets you the cup, but we can prescribe what's going to be in the cup, so those details might be in those, but I'll let zoning answer that better than I can.
Is that the 800 you were talking about, the cup? Yeah.
So just to clarify, a cup is to change a zoning use of an entire parcel. I think what Kenny is talking about is just a permit fee for a temporary usage. Is that the $800 that we're talking about?
Yeah, back,
It's for the cup.
Okay. Well, you wouldn't get, like, Napa wouldn't get a conditional
right.
use permit for a vendor courtyard because they're not a vendor courtyard, they're Napa.
Right.
As a private property owner, you can, if I owned a piece of property in the CR, I could, just like the vendor thing for the courtyard, you can designate your private property as a courtyard if you want one or more vendors to set up in your property.
I see what you're saying. Okay.
That's
All right.
correct.
But I think the issue with that is that it assumes some kind of a long-term vendor courtyard situation and not the thing that we've heard complaints about, which is, I just wanted to have a special event for this one weekend and I wanted to have a food truck come in. So I'm wondering if there's a way that we could get a proposal from staff that has very tight timeframes. You get a permit to do this on private property, and you can only do it a maximum of 2 weekends a year on any one piece of property or something. I'm making up a number, but you know, constrain it from a time perspective and not make them go through a 6-month-long cup process to do it, when all they're really trying to do is have a one-time special event or a once-a-year special event. Right?
See-
I think that's the gap that we have right now in the way the code is set up.
All right, I want to hear from everybody else. Wait, I haven't heard yet from Maggie, so she's got her hand up, and then we'll go to Lisa.
It's already there. You just fill out the special event application.
Right. Well, so they're saying that's only applying to municipal property. If we open the special event application to private property, would that solve the entire problem?
That's,
Off the top of my head, for the most part, yes. I won't give you a definite answer until we look at it. But the point is, there's multiple avenues besides essentially changing zoning regulations. We could come up with a permit. It could be a special event application. It just hasn't been used that way in the past. And so tonight's conversation is, would you like us to look at any form of changes, or are you happy with the way things are now? Because it could be simple of special event permits, we use those for these. It could be that simple.
Okay, Lisa,
See,
yeah.
Yeah, because kind of like what Mr. Larson was saying, my mindset is I don't want to see it become the town is bombarded. We can keep what we have in place. My only thing is from hearing from others is that, like with my company, if we want to do an employee appreciation, we bring in a food truck for that day, but just that they will come that day. So not to have like, it's a forever thing, they pay a fee, and every time you turn around, you're seeing this one establishment having a food truck from different things pop up all the time, which is cutting out the brick and mortar that might be having the same kind of food. It's just, is there any leeway that it can be, for this month, an employee appreciation or one thing, can we have Taco Tuesday or something come here from 1 to 4 for employees? That's it. They come in and get it just for that. But everything else stays in place to retain the control and the appearance of everything else. So I'm just
Right.
curious if you can have something like
And
that.
I'm gonna speak on behalf of the town manager and staff right now. We would never want to just open it up and permit by right of food trucks everywhere, right? That's not anything close to what we are recommending. It's more of if there's a way where we can use a special event permit, if we can create a new permit program, if we need to change code, we're open to allow very specific things that we can still regulate and keep our hands around, but to at least provide a little more opportunity for these one-off events.
I think,
And I,
Hold on, Mr. Wood has his hand up, so I want to make sure I get back on this side, and then we'll come back over here.
I'm wondering frankly if we have different interpretations of some of the things, because if I understood you correctly, Mayor, one of the things you said, if they parked on the street, then we could do it this, and I think you'd said that as well, did you, Mr. Vice Mayor? I think where we got into a problem with our hypothetical is because we didn't understand the terms, and so they got one piece of advice from one person and one piece of advice from another. So is it possible that we already have the solution to our problem? We just need to make sure we're all singing out of the same hymnal.
You know, to my knowledge, that application has not been used in that way. So if that's how it was decided 2022, or whenever it was created, I would say that's been lost on staff.
Okay.
Right? And if that's how you'd like to move forward, we can easily do that. But the way staff's been using is essentially that's for municipal property.
And that's
And not
what it
looking
sounds-
at roads, that's more for designated parks, that's for Town Hill,
Yeah,
that's for regular
The intent
uses.
at the time, in the discussion at the time, was municipal property means the street too, and the sidewalk, and everything the town owns. It was not a lot necessarily, right? And so I'm gonna make sure everybody's paying attention. Okay, is there something else?
I was just pointing out that even the special events in that second column is still only approved by the town manager in the RC district, which is basically the other side of Washington between Colonial
The
and
town code
Boundary.
does not allow the town manager to organize events on the street, like every parade that we have, or funeral processions, or many other things that we designate. This is not a zoning code issue, in my opinion. This is a special event permit interpretation. And because it is one-off, specific, just for that day, this is not the use of the property as a whole. It is that, for that period of time. So the interpretation of municipal property is also the side of the street. And then the food truck, as the brewery, used this many times. I mean, I don't know where this got lost on the administrative part, but they park the window side towards the sidewalk, you know, so nobody's walking out in the street for it, and the back side towards the street, and it sort of works for everybody. Yes,
So-
Mr.
So I
Larson.
think that's a good solution when it is a good solution, but there are places where I think it would be useful to be able to park it on a piece of private property. Remember, we had a marina owner in here speaking on the Preacher Dave's thing, saying, geez, we'd like to be able to have, occasionally have food trucks here for our boaters that come in, right? Parking on the street may not be practical, depending on how far away the street is from the marina where the boats tie up, right? So I'm wondering if you could, where it says TM approval only on that chart, if you slid that into the next cell to the right and gave the town manager that ability as well, and then set some strict, you can't do this all year long, you get one a year, you get three a year, whatever, on any one piece of property, and then I think we're done.
So I
Then do we
think,
need to change the zoning though?
I don't know. That's a
No.
question for
No.
the staff. to
no,
work out, yeah.
this is a town code issue, not a zoning code issue. I think you need to slide it to the right, to your point then, to address that
Yeah.
concern, but all of the marinas are C1, none of them are in RC. So you actually have to slide it down and
Okay,
to the
all
right as well.
Fair point, yeah,
In the chart, right?
but you get the point anyway.
Uh-huh. And First Street and what else is CR? First Street is CR.
Heather, will you go to the next slide?
There we go. Thank you. So it's in resort commercial, so we also would need to do it so we would need to do it in all three of those bottom ones, or in the whole chart, you know, I mean, that's up to y'all. No residential parties with a food truck, gotta bring in private catering.
I don't like the writing code at meetings.
So I was just having a brief sidebar with the town attorney here, and we think the more practical and better way to address this is for the town attorney and I to go and review the code in its totality and see if there are any explanations or anything that needs to just be explained clearer so that council's intent can be captured in the event that there's a turnover or if there's somebody new who's administering this project, so that it is clear on its face council's intent. And then we can then come back to council after that point.
I think the other thing you got to make sure that we understand is what impact is that going to do to the town administration? So if you get, you know, summertime is going to be summertime, right? And the food trucks are going to want to come down here to make money. Are you going to be bombarded with 30 of these, right? How do we limit that, right? Do we say only 5, first come, first serve? Are we doing this for just the season year? Are we doing it during the winter months? We got to make sure that we are checking all the boxes to ensure that, you know, we're not putting you in a position to be overwhelmed with additional duties because, you know, y'all are going to be one doing this stuff. And then we have to figure out regulation, right? Because if you give someone an ability to come down here for one day, somebody's going to be a bad steward of that and just show up, set up, do the thing, and leave, and no one will know, right? Unless the other vendors telling them like they usually do. So,
I have one more question. Why, I don't quite understand why there's anything prohibiting somebody from having a private party on their private party on their private parcel and having a food truck cater it. The town doesn't need to involve itself in that. I don't think the town says yes or no to that. That's their private property and they can get whatever kind of food truck they want.
Well, that's zoning
But they're
code.
not vending to the public. They are vending to, so to Lisa's point, if you're having an employee appreciation party and you ask a food truck to come in, there is no town permit process for that. That's your private party and you can eat whatever hot dog you want.
But if they're selling to the public, if they're having an event where the public can come, that's
Right.
different, and they're charging a fee for that food, that's different.
I think it's important to make that clarification though, because I think we were thinking about it like food trucks at anything, but that's not true. Food trucks at private parties are totally legal and you don't need any kind of permit for that.
that's a cater.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. So now we're just talking about food trucks who want to sell publicly to the people on the street.
Correct. Well, if a, let's say a property owner, a business owner wants to have an event, right? Like I said, he's buy 2, get 1 free type of thing, and he has a food truck come in, they're still selling to the public, even though it's part of a private event. At that point, it's really not private, right? And so this is what we're trying to fix. And I love all the suggestions that we're talking about. It may be as simple as expanding the town's special event program. It may be a very quick solution.
I think if they just put it on the street, it solves the problem already.
Yeah, but if you park it at Napa, you're not going to go on the street. If you park it at Bill Britt, you're not going to go on the street.
They don't have enough public right-of-way to pull it off to the side of the road and we can call that,
Because then you'll get people calling in that their
right there.
food trucks are blocking the road.
Am I missing something, or do we just codify what's already available there? Because if they can park on the street.
But they can't
which
park
is
on the street.
So that as long as they park on the street, then just make sure, where I think we got in the trick bag is we had 2 different interpretations of the same thing. So let's just make sure that
But-
we're all having the same.
Even at Britt, they could park on Roosevelt. They don't have to park on Colonial Avenue. They could park on the side of Roosevelt. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
The problem
and
you're
then
going to start
there's
having with that,
There's
Sorry.
probably a town right-of-way right next to Napa, too. I mean, we got a lot of right-of-ways stuck around all kinds of funny places around here. I wouldn't be surprised if there's some right-of-way near that area as well.
I think you alleviate that by looking at the the information for parking on a private thing and just making it available through CR, RC, those things. Again, like Mr. Larson said, each property has five times for the year. If you go past this, you have to go to a cup.
Like the yard sale permit.
Right.
You can have 2 yard sales a year, I think, in the yard sale permit.
Yeah, because I don't think we should bend ourselves into pretzels trying to figure out where, oh, there's a little right-of-way piece of property we can jam the truck over there. Just let them put them on their parking lot, but limit the time frame. And
Yeah.
I think we're good.
I think just need to come back to us and say, the special event is the option, or a option. Park on private property, it'll cost X dollars, and then we go from there.
And
And
X
then
dollars
enforce
is
it.
not 800.
And then find a way to enforce it, like we say, if it's employee, the employer have an event for employee, and it's this time. You make sure the truck is there, you go back, and that's it. I mean, it's called man time, but if they abuse it, then they lose the privilege, because it's the honor system if it's for your employee and you're doing something then to also attract the public, because then that goes into a different category. But like we say, if it's the employer honoring and appreciating their employees, and it's the private thing, they can do the application for whatever the $30 fee or whatever it was that, you know, the preacher was talking about, and then we go from there. But if it starts becoming that they're trying to get over, then they lose the privilege, because then it becomes the honor system is just out the window at that point.
And we need to make sure that it is the property owner that does the application, not the vendor itself.
Yep. Yeah, we've had internal discussions of what even just a permitting process could look like. And so tonight's purpose has been great because it's getting you talking, letting us know, obviously, there's a need to do something. So staff will now, at your direction, bring you options.
Yeah,
Sound
I'd
good?
like to see what can happen administratively without going further into zoning and town code and making this more complicated than it needs to be.
And we can do most things administratively, as long as you're okay with it.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have enough direction from that, Natasha? All right, next up is Resolution 2926, appointment of zoning administrator. Take it away, Ms. Tucker.
Yes. So back in August of 2024, I was appointed as the town's zoning administrator. At the time, the Zone Planning and Community Development Department was being reestablished. And now we have hired a director, and the very capable Ms. Angela Lawrence, and she has received her certification as a zoning administrator. So tonight, I would like for you all to rescind my appointment as zoning administrator and appoint Angela Lawrence as the town zoning administrator.
All right, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second? Any further discussion? Do I have to do a roll call? Yeah, because the zoning administrator has legal authority. Yep, okay. Grandstaff?
Aye.
Sanford? Aye. Allison?
Aye.
Wood?
Aye.
Larson?
Aye.
And I vote aye.
Up and out.
All right.
I
and
think
with-
the first question should have been, is this you want it?
Oh, does she want it? Congratulations, Ms. Lawrence. All right, and with that, we will adjourn. I got 8:07 PM, everybody. Thank you very much.